Alright, we are back again with another video, and in this video I am going to you know uh, give you guys my process on how I test my targets. And before I go ahead, right, and what you're going to do, or what you have to know about, is that uh, when it comes to bug bounty, you need to learn to build your own process. Okay, you need to stick to your own process. All right, so if you want to be very good at it, if you want to be very good at your own way, you're going to build up your own methodology, you're going to build up your own technique. You're not going to rely on someone else's technique. I'm not saying that you should not focus on someone else's technique. You can do it, but I think that is not the best way for you to level up. Alright, so in this video I'm going to show you my own process, and from there you can pick up one or two things that you can use to build your own process or your own approach. Okay, so you see that we have this target right here. Before I go in talking about how I test my target, I'm going to talk about the first step process I do follow whenever I'm doing bug bounty. Right, so you see this process is going to help you when you pick a target application. Okay, so what you're going to do is when you are on the target, you're going to stick to this first step process. So the first one is approach. Now this is when you land on your target. You pick a website or platform that you want to test or you want to break into. So when you come here, you see that we are on this target, right? So this is the first process. So the second one is identification. So this is when you take your time to identify and list out every features on the site. So when you come here, you see that we can identify some features on this platform or this target. We can see that the target have a login form. We can see login, you can see sign up, right? When you go to the home, you can see a search input where a user is going to enter um, some data, right? So this is what we call functionalities or features. So you're going to identify them. Now once you identify these features, you're going to take note of them, right? Because note taking is very important when it comes to bug bounty. Okay, so they you see you're going to keep notes, make a list of every part of the site you want to test. So when you come here, you see we have login. If you want to test the login, you're going to take note of it, and what you can find in the login, you see you can find username and password, and you're also going to take note of that as well. So the third process is observation, right? So this is when you start using these features like a normal user. You're not going to hack into it, you're not going to start breaking it, right? You want to see how the features work, you want to understand how it works. You are using the feature as a normal user and not as a attacker or an attacker, right? So you want to understand what requests are sent or get sent. You want to know what is happening in the background. Something like this. Now when you go to the login form, you see that it is requesting for username and password. I am not going to enter I'm not going to enter XSS payload like this. Right, I'm not going to enter this payload. Instead, I'm going to enter my name, my username, right? So do not start with breaking into the application, do not start with exploitation, right? Begin with testing the application like a normal user before you start breaking into it. So that is what we call the observation. Then the last process is exploitation. So this is where you finally test and exploit what you have discovered. So if something looks suspicious, let's say parameter or stuff like that, you can attempt to break into it. So when you come here, you see that when we enter the XSS payload, this time around we're not going to enter a payload. We're not going to enter a username, right? We're going to enter the malicious payload, right? So you're going to follow this 4-step process, and now while you are doing all these things, you're going to have your bob suits running in the background. So what you're going to do is before you start clicking around the application, everything is about clicking around, click every buttons. Something I learned from Katie, right? So when you are clicking every buttons and when you are doing your login and sign up, make sure that you have bob suit on. Okay, make sure you have bob suit on, and then make sure your bob suit is up and running. Okay, and what you're going to do now is right now you have understood the 4-step process. So I'm going to take you on how I test this target. So there is something I call unauthenticated testing and authenticated testing. So when it comes to unauthenticated testing, uh, I do not go straight to the sign up or login. Okay, I do not attempt to create an account. Okay, what I'm going to do, it is similar to client side hacking. So I want to focus mainly on what I can see, right? I don't want to go deep into the application by creating an account. Okay, I want to start from what I can see right here. Okay, I want to start from the client side. Okay, I want to start from the front end itself, right? So now what I do is sometimes I go into the developers tool and click on the network tab, right? So sometimes whenever I'm doing the unauthenticated testing, I start looking into JavaScript for API endpoints, secret tokens, and so on. So once you refresh the target, sometimes when you click on JS, you're going to see the JavaScript source code, right? And you can work with this search function to look for specific keyword like API. You can see that. So you see the in this application we have some info links. We have API key. You see we have some hard-coded data and so on. So and this is very important. This is a very unique step to finding info leaks, and JavaScript is a very good place to look for info leaks, right? So you could, let's say you want to look for domain, you could type something like this, target.com, which could give you some domains in the JavaScript. What you could do, let's say you want to look for API endpoints. You see that we have this one. We are able to find an API endpoint, right? So this is one way I do it. Okay, and the other way is you also need to look into your console. Very important to see what the application leaks. So let's see if we have any stuff here. So if you look into this console here, you see that we have some info leaks, admin email, admin password. We have the API endpoints, the Google Map API key, Stripe API key. So you see, do not only look into the network, also look into the console, right, to see if the application is spelling out information or data that you can be able to abuse, right? So After you are done with this, you can also look into the source code of the application. Looking into the source code is also very important. Okay, so this process is called the unauthenticated testing, right? You are not signing up, you're not logging in, you are focusing mainly on the client side, you are focusing mainly on the front end and not breaking into the back end, right? So look into the JavaScript and try to understand how it works. You see that we have couples of info leaks or hard-coded crates, and now we got API config, API keys and all that, right? So now, looking back to this is my own, way of doing the unauthenticated testing. So when you come here, you see that we have you're going to look into the JavaScript files for leaks, secrets, API keys, and so on. You're also going to look for exposed API keys, test for IDORs. This way is that this is why looking for API endpoints can help you a lot. So what if you find an API endpoint like this? Let's look into this one. So what if you find this API endpoint API/user inside JavaScript? Okay, if you access this endpoint and it returns list of users on the system, this is a PII leak, right? This is an info leak. Okay, you are not logged in, you are not authenticated to see this information. You were able to see it without proper authorization, right? So this is why it is important for you to look into JavaScript and all that. Okay, so you're going to start with the unauthenticated testing before you start looking into the authenticated testing, right? So when you come into this authenticated testing, you're going to start looking for this severe flaws and so on, like SQL, RCE, IDOR, more info leaks. You're also going to look for SSRF and stuff like that. So you can also find SSRF when doing unauthenticated testing, right? So most of the flaws you find during authenticated testing can also be found during unauthenticated testing, right? So now when you come here, you see that when we go to identification, right, you see you're going to take your time to identify and list out every features in the application, right? When you come here, you see that we have a user input here where we can be able to enter user information, right? So right now you're not going to have the mindset that you want to break into the application or you want to hack into it. So what you're going to do is let's say I am going to just enter my name. Okay, so when you enter your name, you see that my name gets reflected back on the page. So now you're going to start looking for a specific attack to try here, and one attack is going to be cross-site scripting, right? And before you start testing for cross-site scripting, you're going to what I do is I don't know if everyone have different way of doing it, but before I start testing for XSS, I'm going to start with HTML injection, right? So if I see that it is vulnerable to this HTML injection, and I'm going to begin to test for cross-site scripting by doing this. So you can see that this application is vulnerable to cross-site scripting. So this video is not to take you guys on how to find the flaws, right? This video is not to take you guys on how to exploit and so on. Okay, so this is only going to show you guys my own personal approach, my own personal process that I take whenever I'm doing bug bounty. Thank you.